Welcome back to the next episode of Reasons Why Aliens Will Never Invade Earth podcast. And in this particular podcast, we are going to have a very special guest, Rosalinda Randall. She is a civility expert. And you always have to ask the question, is lack of civility the reason why aliens will never invade Earth? So ladies and gentlemen, I bring in Rosalinda Randall. Hello there. How are you?
Hello, Stanley. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Different
It's a
state.
pleasure to it's a pleasure to have you. I mean, I appreciate it. I've read your books. You have wonderful books. I actually read them. This one is Don't Burp in the Boardroom. But your latest one, which is funny because you self-wrote it, and make sure I get the light right. It's it's Keep Your Distance.
Yeah.
And this is about COVID. Am I right?
Yes, just handling
And
all
one thing,
traumas in COVID
I'm
time.
sorry, one thing that caught my attention was that when I said you self-wrote it, I didn't know that there was a book season. And so you wrote it out of the book season. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah, I learned a lot in the publishing world. My first book is traditionally published, which means the publisher does everything, the cover, markets for you. You don't have to spend a dime. You just have to write and meet guidelines. And there are 2 seasons in April, around April, and then again in November. And they plan this a year in advance. So this book that I started writing, I presented it with them and they were interested. However, they're already booked to this November. They've got their book list out. So that's why they're on always a tight schedule and looking ahead for topics that could be hot, trending, coming up, or passe. So this one, I independently published it, is the preferred term than self-publishing, which has caught on now. There are more books that are being more recognized that are being self-published versus the traditional way.
So I could write a book and just put it out there myself?
Yes, you can.
Is it like social media? I can just put it out there and then write whatever I want?
Yeah, I don't know that people might be interested in reading it or not, but we can certainly put up whatever we want, unless someone decides they don't like it and then they take it down.
Oh, wait, you mean like Twitter? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me take that one back. I apologize. So here's my question. You read a book about civility and etiquette. Is the lack of civility one of the reasons why aliens will never invade Earth?
I gave that a little thought, and I think it depends on the state. Because there
Okay.
are some states that are not as rude as other states, and I've been in a few that I would say, yeah, I'd consider coming down for that particular state in general.
Well, I remember living in California. Now, I'm from Philadelphia. So when I moved to California, California is kind of a standoffish state. I mean, you can go somewhere and no one will notice you. You'll be, invisible to the whole world. But then I flew to Texas to meet my sister who lives out there. And on the highway, people were waving at me. And I'm like, wait a minute. People are waving at me. And I'm like, is this like the 5-finger Crips or something? Because I've never had people just randomly wave at me from their cars. It was just like, what's going on here? This is kind of weird. Why is everybody waving at me? But yet, when you come here, I mean, I remember a joke I heard once that said that they don't know why carpool lanes are 2 people because nobody in California has more than one friend.
That's true. Yeah, I think we're very car oriented here as well, and like the freedom to go anywhere. Yeah, Texas is one of the places that I frequently go to, and I've stayed, actually almost a month at a time. And so you get to get a little bit more of the flavor of the people. And of course, there's rude people everywhere, but or else you wouldn't have a job catching them, caught misbehaving, right? We need some rude people, because then why would I write a book and why would you have your company? But
Okay.
Arizona as well. I've spent considerable time there, and you could probably speak on it even better. But definitely in general, the I don't, the lack of a better word, the vibe that I feel when I go out in public or shopping to the stores, just to run mundane errands, it's very different. And in a nutshell, for both those states that I've spent considerable time, is people there seem to be aware that they aren't the only ones on Earth. Whereas in California, and I'm a born and raised LA girl, I love my state, but it has changed considerably, where here we are kind of blinders. It's me, move out of my way, I'm here. And I hate to say that, but that's the feeling that I've got. And I noticed it more coming and being, from other states and comparing it.
Okay. So let's talk about things going on right now. So your book about, it was more COVID related because there's some questions on how we should act around other people with COVID-19 and the pandemic. And one of the things I've come across is that, and I think it's personally rude, although I know I need to do it, is when I see someone coming towards me on the street and they're not wearing a mask,
Mhm.
I want to pull my mask up. But at the same time, I feel like, oh my God, if I do that, it looks so obvious that I'm like pulling a mask up. And I worry that, am I offending someone by pulling my mask up? Should that something I should worry about? And what should I do about it?
I agree with you. It does give a certain perception to that person, like, oh, you've got cooties, I've got to protect myself. But I think with if we listen to the news and listen to some things, it's what their point is, do it for other people. And I think if most of us, stay aware about other people, again, not about us, then I think it is just the polite thing to do. Just like when you go out to a restaurant, when they're open, depending on where you are and what day of the week it is or month, when the server comes towards you, I take my mask and I put it up, or I ask them, would you like me to put my mask on when you approach the table? So I think those things are really nice. I think what you do now, again, if that other person's going to find offense, but your gesture is coming from the intent is positive and good and caring and all that good stuff, then that's their problem, not yours.
Okay. So one of the things that bugs me, another thing, and I'm not going to be like bug me. This bugs me. That bugs me. This bugs me. But going into restaurants, and I know in California you can't go into restaurants right now, but in Arizona everything's open. You can go eat inside a restaurant. You can dine like a normal person, and there's not a lot of they have a balanced amount of seating so that they can keep people separated.
Mhm.
But my question is, you see people come into the restaurant and they think that because they're in the restaurant, they can just rip their mask off, and because they're inside now, they're not eating yet. They haven't even sat down, but the minute they walk in the door, they take it off and say, "Well, I'm here, so I'm about to eat, so I'll take my mask off."
And I think that goes to the problem of the such a polarizing topic, the face mask alone, and where and how you should wear it and when you should wear it. And but I think that would be, in this particular incident, it's up to the server, hostess, or manager to watch and impose, but they really can't. And then they don't want to lose customers by pointing things out. That you need to put it back on. By the time they get to them and do that, they'll be seated and their mask can come off. So if I see someone like that, and they're gonna, and they get pretty close, if they're walking past your table to get to theirs, what I would do is either put my mask on if there's time to approach, or just turn my head slightly so that I don't get their breath down, their particles down as they pass. But there are some things, that's where I think there are some things that I'm huge on overlooking things. Now I know this is a health issue and we could die from it, and it's a little bit
Yes.
more serious. However, once that person passes, what will my point be? How will it fix if I look over at them and give them a little lecture or hand them out a COVID paper? I mean, that won't make anything better. It won't take that moment away. So to me,
Okay.
the less contact I have with someone, even if it's to give them, a little lecture and point the finger, the better, in my opinion.
Now you've seen all those videos, and I have one on my Twitter page right now that has gone so viral that it's gotten over 20,000 retweets, and I've never seen that before. And it was a video of a kid. Let me take that back. A man being accosted by two officers saying he needed to wear a mask. I called it Wally World, and which is Walmart. And I guess the twist was at the very end. It turns out that a kid was videotaping the whole thing. And I don't know if you saw the video.
Yes.
And there are a lot of those videos circulating right now about people not wearing masks. And my first instinct is record everything, but then it looks like we're just kind of over recording. Would you think that is kind of the lack of civility, that we're just showing everybody being uncivilized, and that's another reason why they won't show up?
I think there's something to that. I
Okay.
believe that because we have access to our phone, and For you, it's different. So I need to say this in advance. This is your job. You are looking for these things. This is what
Yes.
your company does. Okay. So, but for the regular person to try and find things, it might be just, I want my 15 minutes of fame to be on there. Other than that, I don't know what purpose there is. If I were to watch something, I would go in and try to help, assist in some way, or get out of the way so that that situation doesn't escalate. Because I think once you put a camera up on someone, especially the person that's partaking in this interaction, positive or negative, we can get a little bit defensive, challenging, or now I'm going to bring you in because you have a camera on me, and it can just get uglier and uglier. But then again, people who have videotaped things have helped, assisted in cases and lawsuits. So I think it depends on the situation. If it's something as minor as a face mask, discussion or heated even argument in a store, and people have their space and they look like they're, stepping away from each other versus onto each other,
Okay.
I don't see any reason why. I just want to get out of there personally.
All right. That's fair enough. I mean, it's weird in a sense. Everything we're doing right now in this whole world is just straight up weird. This is something we've never seen before, not since 1918, near the pandemic. And people go, well, your Twitter says you were born in 1989, so were you there? Well, I can neither confirm or deny. So tell me some other things that people are doing wrong as it relates to etiquette during this time, or in that case, because your original book was about just etiquette in general, but then you threw in the compounded with what's going on today.
Mhm.
Here's your chance to go on your soapbox and tell me the things that you've noticed that just drive you absolutely bunkers.
Well, there are things that drive me crazy. However, I have decided not to use up that much energy on these things because I cannot control them anymore. So I only allow them to get to an annoyance, frustration kind of level, and then I just need to forget about it. But a couple of the things that people have brought up to me that I more common questions are: one, greetings. When we see each other or start getting out in the world and we run into someone and they want to come up and hug us and we're not ready for that, is how do I do it and not hurt that person's feelings? Well, we're going to have to hurt people's feelings. Or again, as I said earlier, we're not in control of how they feel. We can't make everyone feel wonderful. I mean, that's proven in the world. But one way is to do a little lean back, put the hand that's universal, oh gosh,
Okay.
and mostly smile. I know we have the face mask on, but you can tell if someone's smiling through their eyes. And even more important is the tone in which you say it. Say it with a smile, like, hey, oh, it's so great to see you, but I'm not ready to hug. I'm still practicing, social distancing or whatever. But oh my gosh, great to see you. How's your dog? And get into a conversation. There's nothing better than to get out of an awkward situation than to ask that person about themselves.
So you mentioned that people have on masks so you can tell when they're smiling, but some people have RBF and you can't tell what they're doing. And RBF, if you don't know, means resting bitch face.
Yes, I know
That
now.
means you look angry 24/7, no matter what.
Yep.
And so, I mean, you make eye contact. You don't know if they're smiling. They're just staring off into and they, in their mind, they may be smiling, but it's a whole mask thing going on.
It's true. And some people aren't smiley people all the way, or they're, like you said, they're focused on what they have to get in, get out, or their next stop, or whatever it is. So you're right there. So what becomes more important right now is our body language, on greeting someone. What I do now is I gesture. If I want someone to go ahead of me because then we'll be too close, I do, with my hand, I extend the hand and just go ahead. If it's not too noisy, they can hear me as well. For greeting, I do a nod. Back in the old days, the men would do their little hat tip and yes, like that. So there's a lot of nodding. There's other ways that we can acknowledge someone whether they're in our way or not, or just to greet them. So I do a lot of nodding and, just, oh, well, we're in here, more physical gestures to get my point across.
Point across. So, point taken, first of all.
Yeah.
And first of all, let me take time to welcome everybody who's joined us. We have people here from Facebook, and welcome all the Facebook followers, Twitter, Twitch. I didn't say Twix this time. I said, because I always say Twix, like the candy bar for some reason. And maybe they should sponsor it because, we just have candy here. And we're going to be having some questions from people. If they're on the chat, they can feel free to drop a question in. And we won't pick them all, but we will pick some. And then I'll read them off, and then we'll figure out if it's something you want to answer. And if you say no comment, throw your hands up, it's all good. It happens. But I'm inviting people now to extend any questions they may have and help us, as we grow this podcast. We take questions from people. But anything that I'm missing about this whole civility thing that it's important for people to know right now.
I think, and maybe a little bit later, we can get into the social media component. And right now,
that's one of my subject matters coming up.
Great. But the more face-to-face, and there's things that will overlap, but I just think that it's gotten out of control. Well, I have several theories, right or wrong.
Okay.
But I think many of us might want to grasp onto something to explain society today, why we are so rude, so self-centered, so dismissive of people, and so defensive and ready to challenge and pounce on people and hate and, etc. I can go on with that. But, the one thing that popped into my head actually today on my exercise class was, do we feel insignificant? Would that prompt someone to no matter what, it's almost like, and I'm sorry, I don't want to equate an adult to a child, but it's almost when children misbehave just to get attention. They don't care if it's good attention or bad attention.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about on social media.
Yeah.
Because it seems like people are doing everything they can to get attention, no matter what it is. I mean, they will just make up something and hope that they get a lot of attention. And, and people equate social media virility as a way to get the attention they want. And back to that whole tweet I had, which was 20,000 retweets. And you would think, wow, that's a lot of retweets. Your social media platform probably grew. It did. It actually grew by 2 people. So, but I'm not doing it for it to grow because the people that are there would probably not fit the narrative. They wouldn't like the narrative when I mention what I think about certain things. So they're there, they're retweeting. I appreciate that. And that's fun to get the name out a little bit. But the important part is we need to be something that we're not. We can be anything we want on social media now. We just put up a fake symbol, and then we're rich. We're driving, we go out to the store and take a picture of a Lamborghini. We're flexing. And then we go back and we live in our mom's basement. It's the truth.
Yes.
And it's gotten to the point where even, remember old music used to be about love and this and that, and the love I lost was a sweet love, and
love that song.
All those songs, and all of a sudden now it's like, they calling women this thing, or how much money I got or how much I spent, and people want to emulate that. They want to emulate how much money someone spent, so they pretend to be something they're not.
And then their life that can be enriched by so many other things are not, because they're trying to focus on pretending to be or reach for something that happens to very few people, the celebrity status. It's so many, there's starving artists everywhere in the world. So I think by focusing so much on our social media presence, we're losing so much in real life. So
a question was brought up, and Diane just posted it. Someone else wrote it. She reposted it. I can read it. Is that, and I'm gonna tell you my answer after I hear yours. Could it have a lot to do with COVID fatigue, that people are so fatigued about COVID they're just making up stuff now? Like Dr. Seuss, it's like, I always think that man was on some kind of drugs because the stuff he wrote was like bananas. It was, the Cat in the Hat, all that stuff. Green Eggs and Ham, Sam I Am.
Yeah.
That's, those are shrooms.
Yeah, I was going to say, who knows what inspired him, but
Yes.
yes, yeah. Um, and we can all be inspired by doing all kinds of things, but uh, I really forgot the question that was posed because
The question is, do you think fatigue is the reason why?
yes, okay, thank you. I think that definitely, I was picturing Dr. Seuss doing some things, but so I think that definitely, most definitely, that has a lot to do with the social media, how it's going, how intense it gets, and couple that with the political season that we've had, or the 4 years that we've had, and then now people have lost their jobs or lost loved ones or can't go anywhere, so naturally we need to vent. In fact, somebody said what I thought of, somebody exactly what you had just said, Stanley, creating an anonymous site, whether on Instagram or any of the social media sites, so that it was a place for them to vent and say all kinds of things. And my response off the top of my head was, why? If you want to vent, call your brother, call your sister, call your best friend.
Wait. I can't call my sister and vent because all they do is I call them. They wasn't like, yeah. Matter of fact, case in point, my birthday. I'm in Canada. My sister calls me and says, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm thinking she's calling me happy birthday, and she goes, "I need $800." And I said, "But it's my, I thought you were calling me happy birthday." And she goes, "Oh, it's your birthday?" It's like awkward.
Wow. Okay, that's a whole different segment that I'd love to dive into. um, but no, I understand. What I'm saying is someone that will listen to you and that you have some rapport
All
with,
right, fair enough.
even like-minded, so that you can let that out. Because once you start going on social media, I mean, there's hackers, there's people, there's ways people can figure out who you are at some point. And then again, what is your point to put out into the world? Spew more yucky stuff, for lack
Well,
of
a lot of people are spewing hatred. It's like I mean, I can't read some of the tweets anymore because it's almost like you know what to expect from certain people, that they write stuff and you already know what they're going to say before they say it. And the thing that bugs me is, like, if you go on social media right now, there's so much negativity that a lot of people are becoming turned off by it. And to answer my question that I answered you, that I had you answer first, was that the whole people coming up with their fake profiles and what have you have been going on long before we got to the COVID-19.
You're
I
right.
mean, there have always been fake profiles. And one of the things that bugs me is when a journalist makes a fake profile so they can say things on a fake profile that they can't say in real life. And then they get busted about the fake profile. And then they claim, oh, well, you know what? It wasn't me. Someone hacked my account, or someone created this account. But then when you go back and look at the history, you realize that everything has an IP address. And when I used to run weatethere.com, people used to write negative stuff all the time. And I would go back and track the IP address back to, when in some cases it was Princeton University. And then you call people out and go, look, I know you posted from the computer in Princeton. And you get dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, wait, how'd you find me? They don't realize that everything you do can be found. So it goes back to civility. If you're not civil in the beginning, you're not going to be civil in the end. And then it's just going to come back and it's going to bite you in the butt.
Yeah, and that's another question I get asked. Do you think people are going to be more polite once we get out, blah, 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 blah? And I said, the people who were rude prior to COVID are going to be rude again. Now, there may be a little window that, this shook us all up, but just like with 9/11, and I don't like to bring that up, but we were one. We were all in love with each other and helping each other and everything. And then it died down slowly. So do we need pandemics? Do we need emergencies to bring us together and remind us that we're all okay and we all think differently, but we became cohesive and we became caring and overlooked a lot of things? And like I said, that's one of the big words that I use: overlook things. We do not need to address each and everything. Speaking of what you said, the hateful stuff on social media, I get it, nowhere nearly as much as I'm sure you do, because you catch people misbehaving. I just talk about it. But I've had some people private message me like, "Who'd want to live with you? You probably don't let anybody breathe, and you make people dress up." And I mean, whatever they think of etiquette and all that stuff. It's like, no, I'm in PJs right now. But so I think we have to choose what we want to address, how we want to represent ourselves, how much energy we want to spend on something. Will it help? Is it necessary? And what is my point? Those are the three questions that run through my mind when I get something that irks me. It's like, what's my point? Is it necessary? And how will it help?
Well,
Usually, it
I always
won't.
have the joke because people will write up and like somebody wrote here, they go, they're trolls, and people say don't feed the trolls, but I always say trolls got to eat too. But I don't feed them the same stuff the vile stuff they feed me.
Mhm.
Like the guy in the BMW, I call him Elmo shirt guy. He could be considered a modern day non social media troll. But the whole time he was being rude to me, I was saying thank you, and people were going, "Why are you saying thank you?" I said because if you're going to feed the troll, feed them organic food, so they can't. Then it looks like they're just being the person that's being the butthead, not yourself.
I agree. Exactly. But can everyone do that? That's the thing.
Well, that's just it. Some people can't. And again, it goes back to, and I always say the joke, living in the basement with your mom. And
Mhm.
people go, wait a minute, I live in the basement with my mom. I go, okay, well, maybe not you, but most of them.
And we both said it. People can't. I We can. We're in control. I used to say this to my sons, bringing them up. No one can make you do anything unless there's a gun pointed at your head. Then, okay, maybe you need to do whatever they tell you. But aside from that, and forgive the reference to everybody, in case the gun thing, but, just to make a point, we
I
are
say
all
the
in.
same reference, though, just not to cut you off, but I use the same reference. It's not like there's a gun to your head. You can do what you have freedom to do whatever you want to do. And,
Yes.
and, and that brings up something else, but keep going.
No. That was mainly it. We are in control, and people blaming, in this case, the White House, the leader. And there is something to our leaders, even within companies. Depending on how your boss behaves, sometimes it gives us the license to do as they do, but we're never supposed to. Okay, well, I can, but do I want to? It's my choice whether I want to, still maintain my integrity, my civility, my kind words, all those things that come with trying to be a better person, I guess.
Interesting. I never, it's, how do you be a better person when everybody around you is so negative?
Well, if I had to pick one thing, was my upbringing. um, that's it. And I know that a lot of people aren't fortunate. I consider them fortunate to have a certain type of upbringing that gave me the foundation. Now, I've known people within my own family that received the same foundation, but they took a little detour over here and played around with things that we weren't supposed to, but they had something to come back to, something that grounds us. And I think there's something to that a lot of people are being raised not fully grounded. And I don't mean that, oh, parents aren't being good parents, they're not teaching their children certain things, how to be nice and kind, but that's just one theory, our upbringing. And then there's cultural differences, and then there's ego. And I believe, the whole self-esteem thing that came up, that we all have to be comfortable, and it has to be fair, and it has to be right, and I have to feel good. And I mean, I just I pile all those things into one basket, shake it up, and say, from this, I think there is something that has changed in society on how what there is a standard, because we can no longer, the neighbor down the street can't tell you. I've done that at a store. I was at a store. This little girl was playing. This was pre-COVID. I mean, yeah, pre-COVID. And she was
Okay.
playing those little circular clothing things, and it was almost coming down. I didn't see the mom. So I said, oh my goodness, very nicely. And I said, oh, be careful. That's going to fall on you. The mother came over. All of a sudden, she appeared and said, what are you saying to my daughter? I mean, so she was already defensive. When I tried to explain, I was trying to save her from, cutting her head open, but that didn't go well. So I think that has changed too. We don't have the same expectations of standard of behavior anymore. So
Well, my biggest issue I've always had is, and I grew up with what they called ass whoopings. You did something wrong, you got your butt whipped.
Yeah.
And then and you didn't do it again because you learned from it, and then they phase that out slowly. And now, if you beat your child, they take you to to the state, and then the state charges you with beating your child and whatever. And so you can't do that anymore. And I'm not saying everybody should beat their child. Don't boycott me. Don't boycott my advertisers. Oh wait, I don't have any. Go
No,
ahead.
and better clean up that word beat. 'Cause I know what you mean because we got spanked. It wasn't, no
Well,
beating.
when I say beat, they had a belt.
Yeah, me too. I got the bell. It was
Yeah,
very
it was a
calm.
belt. They didn't call it a spanking. I never got a spanking. I got my ass whipped.
Okay. Well, then say it how it is. I like to remember it as I got a spanking.
Yeah, well, my mom used to say, or my mom would say, you know what? I'm going to beat your ass. She never said, I'm going to spank. She never said, Stanley, go in your room so I can spank you. Nope. She said, get upstairs so I can beat your ass.
Okay.
And that's how I remember. And I was like, oh, I don't want to get that. That's something. But what happened now is that people tend to, uh, claim that the reason why a child is the way they are is because single parent, and that you grew up in a household without. But I grew up with almost with this one parent. But look at me. There's nothing wrong with me. Well, okay. I take that back. But let's not get too far off course about civility, although that all plays into everything.
It does. It does. And something that about social media as well as posting and anonymous and not anonymous. If you are in business, that's what surprises me the most. People who are in business, and even more so self-employed, who put a lot of these very hateful, and I don't mean, I appreciate a joke about whatever president it is. If it's witty and clever, I'm going to like it. I mean, we have to have a sense of humor, but that put very vulgar, hateful things. I always stop to think, well, you're alienating potential customers, because if that's how you think, and I don't mind that you have an opinion that maybe we are opposed on this particular topic, but that you are able to conduct yourself in a manner that we can, agree to disagree and
You
conduct
disagree?
right.
Right.
But then it's there forever, and then your children are seeing that, or your children's teachers can see.
Well, I never understood how people. I mean, they can't remember what they did yesterday, but do something wrong in front of them, and you will be on social media so fast. And wait, if you post something on social media and you say, "Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't mean that," and you take it down, literally the minute you post it, someone screenshotted it. It takes me 5 minutes to figure out how to screenshot something, and they have pictures and video. I don't know how. I saw a guy one day, and this is before social media, where he got cut off, and I swear that he rolled his window down and put his middle finger up at the same time in one solid move.
Wow.
It wasn't even and it was a roll down window. Yeah, I'm dating myself.
Oh.
So he had the window down, finger out, window back up again within a few seconds. And that's what it's turned into nowadays. It's like, I'm going to snap this video right away. I'm going to tweet this thing right away. And we don't drunk tweet.
Oh. Okay. I never. Thanks for the alert there. As I get my glass of wine. No.
That's why I'm drinking coffee from my Mr. Badley mug, which you can get on bonfire.com.
Or so you say. That's what's in there. But going back to what you said on driving, because that's kind of what you did on your last show and in Arizona and what you do here, although you broadened it. But on the road, exactly what you said. Those are okay. You want to know what peeves me off? All right, here, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Sorry. Is when we're at a light, red light, of course, and it turns green. I really try to give that person a couple of seconds. And it's very difficult because I'm one of those, it turns green, I'm out of there. I'm at
You're like a New York second. You want them to move between red and green. That moment when red and green is up at the same time, you want them to start moving.
Yes. But because I'm trying to be civil in this COVID world, I do try and give it a couple of seconds. And then I do that friendly, like beep, beep, like wake up, I'm helping you go because it's green. And you get the flip off.
Now you do realize you're breaking the vehicle code when you blow your horn, right?
No, I love blowing my horn.
Vehicle code says you can only blow your horn if it's a life or death emergency. You can't blow your horn to say move on. I'm just telling you what the law says. Now, what people do, I don't blow my horn. People wonder how I don't blow my horn. So you're only supposed to blow it in an emergency. So you can't just blow it because somebody's. But that being said, in Arizona they allow you to use your phone at a red light or at a train when the lights are down.
That's
California, they do not. So here, when the light changed green, people are there a little bit longer because they're still on their phones.
Okay, but in Arizona, where they allow it, they don't say, and take your time, by the way. No, it's you still need to be considerate of the person behind you. So I think I'm doing them a favor, like, hey, let's go. That's
you know what you're doing? You're saying, hey, pull your gun out and we're waving in the air like you just don't care.
No. Okay, well, that's a pet peeve. Another one is people standing on the corner and I'm going, okay, go ahead, you're a pedestrian. And then they look down again and do that. And I'm going like, do I go? But then they look up like, are you going to cross? Oh my God, doing this little dance with pedestrians. If you're going to cross, you're at a corner, give your back to the driver, to the people driving up the street. So then I know you have no intention of crossing the street right there. You're checking your phone. That's another pet peeve.
Well, you know what? Gordon Wong, who's listening in, he's one of my regulars. He says it's not a drag race. You're not trying to see who can beat to the next light. So, I mean, you know what I always say? Take a deep breath and wait for them to. But I have a 3-second rule for driving into the road because out here everybody runs the red light.
I know, that's true.
So if you go right away, you might get hit.
I've thought of that, but it's a habit I'm going to have to work on. Yeah, okay, well, I learned a few things.
In New York, you can get a ticket for misuse of your horn.
I love my horn.
Can you imagine getting a ticket because you blew your horn? Can you imagine how many people on Twitter be like, I can't believe it, all this crime in the world, and they will give me a ticket for blowing my horn?
Yeah.
But think of it this way, okay? Think of it this way. So you live in an apartment in downtown, any place, downtown San Francisco, since you're in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to sleep because you've had a long day. And everybody's blowing their horn because they're stuck in traffic, but you can't sleep. And all of a sudden you're like, will they please stop blowing their freaking horns? I'm trying to go to bed. But yet you blow your horn because you want to blow your horn. Same thing like no one cares about pedestrians until they're pedestrian.
Yeah, that's true. All right, you schooled me. All right.
So are we going to? So welcome to my therapy. I'm going to send you a bill for therapy today.
Okay, it's worth it.
We will not be blowing our horns anymore. This is reasons why aliens will never never invade Earth is because we don't give enough therapy. I don't know. Which is funny because next week we're having a guy on who's all about peace, and his name is Peter Jam. So we're going to do peace next week. This week we're doing civility. Last week we did. If you go to our podcast, you can see we did about implicit bias. So we're covering all the gamuts of what the heck is going on right now. I got a message from Gabriel. If you live in downtown Manhattan, you should not expect peace and quiet in the middle of rush hour. Okay, I disagree with that. I expect peace and quiet when I want peace and quiet.
Then I guess you won't be moving to Manhattan or invest in good earplugs.
Well, he lives in Ohio, so.
Mm. No, it's true. It does vary from state to state, county to county, on how people even behave with one another or in stores, as we mentioned earlier, Texas and Arizona, the differences that I see. But again, I just think that additionally on why I think we get into awkward or discussions or a lot of conflict is one, we go in trying to impose.
Okay.
If not, we're trying to change their minds, or we sometimes want to challenge them and show them that they're wrong. And going into a conversation with any of those things in your mind or an expectation of what they should say,
okay,
will never be productive. It can't be productive unless the other person sees that. And I've done that where I've been in a conversation and I just keep my mouth shut because of the level. And that's one thing I tell people. If you see a person is already at an elevated level of passion or anger or, insert emotion.
You should go and poke them.
Or hung my horn. Uh, yeah, or share a glass of wine. That might be helpful.
Well, not while you're driving.
No, this is like on the street.
You should get out the car, have the wine, and then take an Uber home.
Yeah.
Take an Uber. I'm not saying get back in the car.
No, never get back in the car. Not your car. But
never in my car.
I disengage in the sense of I don't partake in the conversation, or I keep my responses neutral. I'll just say, I see your point. Yeah, I understand. And a lot of people go, I can't say that because I disagree intensely with them. Those things did not mean I agreed with you. You may perceive it as such because you're looking for agreement. Most of us are looking to be acknowledged. And of course, ultimately, we want agreement. But if we just acknowledge each other, even if it's completely opposite of what you think, that's an interesting point. I've never heard that. And that's my standard. And it is an interesting point. I disagree and I think you're an idiot. That's up here. But most of us have to say that. And it's like, we don't. And that's where I think tact, the word overlook, I said earlier, overlook a lot of these things. You're not going to change people by engaging, not all the time.
So should we bite our Twitter tongue and we want to say something? Should we post it? Should we go into maybe write it onto notes, read it out loud to yourself and then maybe post it so you have a second to think about it? Or do you just, you know what? I don't like that. I'm going to write this. Like the video, the meme with the cat on the keyboard.
Oh, yeah, I like that one. You can do either one, but there are consequences and repercussions to that. And, oh gosh, I just forgot something else that you said, but let me just go with this one, is the consequences, repercussions. That's another thing that people who post on social media want everyone to be in agreement with them. We get mad if people question it or challenge us or go, you're wrong, you're this, you're that. And we get mad. I'm unfollowing you. I'm blocking you. It's like, well, you put it out there. You only expect fairy dust. You're going to get some nails and rocks thrown at you. And that we need to be able to accept that. If not, then just pick your little group and post with them and know they're all going to like it and put little happy faces for you.
An old poet once wrote, he says, I'm so-and-so, I'm this, I'm that, but they all just wick, wick, whack. Boogie Down Productions.
Okay, I like it.
He calls himself a poet, so, people are like, that's not a poet. Yeah, well, BDP, Boogie Down Productions was a poet as far as I'm concerned. Back in my day growing up, they were heck of poets.
See, and we can have a big argument on that. Think how simple of the thing you just said, and people go, well, no, poetry means this. You must have
Yes.
this.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I have people that argue about a glass of water if you put it out there. And I used to post stuff.
Half empty.
Yes. And that's probably, that could be moonshine. I don't know what it is.
No, you don't.
I mean, I'll just have to wait and see if we get happier and happier and happier as we go down the line.
Okay. Start slurring my words.
You know what? You'd be surprised how many people on TV be slurring their words. And they used to think some people were drunk 24/7 being on the air.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about a couple of people who are still on the air in that.
And they said they were drunk, Yeah. It is what it is.
Yes. As long as you can do your
let's not get too far off course about being drunk, but that is part of being civil.
Yes, it is.
So if I were to, where would I find your books, first of all?
They're on Amazon. However, if you just go to my website, rosalindarandell.com, you can find everything there. And I just find that simpler to tell people. Just rosalindarandell.com. Social media, book, YouTube videos, tips, everything's there. So,
and you're actually a compliance expert as it relates to COVID. Tell me about that.
Yes, I just became, because I've been doing a little bit of acting on the side, just as a background extra. Love it. You get the fun without the responsibility of memorizing any lines. So that's where I'm at right now. And there happened to be a COVID compliance officer on set. and I watched him and we interacted. So I had a moment to be able to speak with him and find out what that was. And more companies, some companies are actually sending employees to do that. But this is for the film industry, specifically the one that I just got certified in, and shoots and sets and people that are going to be doing some video on everything, how to be compliant. So I would arrive sooner. I'd be the screening person, make sure people are following the rules and just all of the things that go with it, which was really enlightening to see what companies are going to have to do. And it's a requirement on the set, depending on for sure, LA County and San Francisco has a lot of shoots here as well. So, and then later on, I'm going to get another certification, which is more for more general areas and types of businesses. So if they want to hire me, a lot of people are doing this freelance. They hire you for the first day or two to make sure the office, everything, the area is going to be COVID compliant. And then you leave and just.
Okay, so I'm going to pop up a question here. This is from Veronica, and she wrote, why do people feel the need to announce to YouTube channels or whatever other channel it is that the minute they disagree, I'm unsubscribing like it's a threat? And I will say this before you go any further, is that people have unsubscribing as a badge of honor nowadays. Even if they block you, it's a badge of honor. Like if I block someone, you think, okay, I blocked them. They're gone. They take the picture of the block and say, look, I was blocked. Some people make it their profile name. I was blocked by so-and-so and so, as if that makes me, it gives them like superpowers, superpowers for being blocked.
Wow. I thank you for asking, Veronica. I was not aware of what Stanley just said, that it was a superpower. You really can't get people from stopping you. You're not going to get pleased no matter what it is. I'm taking it as though you put things on YouTube. You film and put videos up, which I do too. Pardon me.
Was that I do too? Like,
oh no, it was coincidental. No, I do too. I do as well.
Okay, I was just checking.
And I haven't even read the comments, but you're always going to get comments, just like on anywhere on your social media and verbally, where people are going to say things. And, I attribute it to you're not that busy. If you really want to go ahead and block me, or just don't click on my channel anymore. I mean, there's such simple ways to do things that we don't need to begin a conflict or do that. Just like people on Yelp for businesses, people ruin, businesses or their stars go down because you weren't satisfied. Well, maybe you're the type of person that will never be satisfied, or maybe there were circumstances that they couldn't do everything that you wanted to. A lot of times it's our mood. So, going back to your YouTube channel, sometimes people are in a rotten mood and they happen to watch your video and they just didn't like it because you're too pretty. Click, block you. I mean, it can be anything.
I'm glad you said that, because I found something interesting, is that some people don't understand how to use social media. Mm-hmm. So they will not like something simply because they don't agree with something someone said. So it may be a great story. You may have put your all into the story, but they go, "Oh, I don't like what they said," so they don't like the entire piece, yes. And they put a thumbs down because they said something in there that they didn't like. It wasn't that they didn't like the piece. No, the piece was wonderful. So why'd you give it a thumbs down? Oh yeah, well they said something I didn't agree with, so I gave the whole. And it's like throwing out the baby with the bathwater, or the bathwater with the baby. Which one is it?
Yes, baby with the bathwater.
Yeah, why would you want to throw your baby out in the first place? Unless, of course, it's not your baby. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you better be kidding. So going back to social media, you need a thick skin to be on there. And I think that's where some people don't realize that not the world, they think it's a pretty world out there. And also it can be something so pretty, like, oh, a little, deer with sprinkles, and I'll put a pretty saying, have a wonderful, blessed day. That's going to offend someone. No matter what anyone puts on there, there's going to be one person who's going to think it's stupid, it's irrelevant, it's a waste of time, the color's ugly, just name it. So again, it comes down to our individual person. What do you want? Dignity? Do you want integrity? And you want to show that? with every post. And there are things that I like that I think are cute, but I don't necessarily go and click like. I can't. I'd be there. That would be my full-time job. So,
Well, ironically, I click a lot of like buttons, and people go, "Oh, you like that comment?" And I don't click it because I always like it. I have a system to know I didn't read the say. I get a lot of messages, and I say a lot. Like I don't turn on my my notifications because my phone would be like ding 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 ding. So I don't have notifications. My phone only rings if someone I know calls me. So I have to go back on and log on because, and I like them so that I don't read it twice. But just to be fair, I do read them, and if I don't push I like, it doesn't mean I didn't read it. It just means that I didn't really didn't like it. And some people write things that they paint stuff with a broad brush. And for me to like that broad brush means that I like everything that they said. And the part with me is that I actually read almost every comment sent to me. And I used to be told when I worked in San Francisco, don't read them because you'll just go crazy. And you'll be surprised how mean people can be. And they go, well, why are you reading it? Why are you reading it? Well, you know what? Because how do I know if I'm missing something if I don't read it? And the problem is that it becomes like I call it a wormhole. You get sucked into that wormhole. And then if you allow yourself to stay sucked in, you become toxic and start coming back with toxic statements back to them. So how does someone who is involved in social media, and I don't believe in 1 million followers to me means you can't keep up track with anybody because there's too much going on. I mean, this 20,000 views I just had, my whole Twitter is shut down in my mind because I can't see anything anymore. All I have is do. And it's like, 11 million, 12 million people had impressions so far, whatever it is. So it's weird. It's crazy. It's what do you do?
From one standpoint, because you are in this for your business, which is most of my social media is business related. I divulge a little personal here and there, but not a lot, very, very little. So for you and I at a lower scale, I think it's a good idea to, peruse, like you said, trying to read each comment, it can be difficult. And put a little heart because, they said something nice. It's very difficult. So sometimes I put a general, thank you, everybody. It's not as personalized, but it also gives you some insight as to what is working and what isn't. So for you,
Okay.
that you got that so many views on that one thing, well, as a business person, I'm supposed to, or my social media marketing team takes that and says, post more stuff like this. People are liking it. And we want to grow our business and we want to grow followers because that equals business opportunities for us being self-employed people. So there is some component to that. And then if you don't mind really quick, to answer the bad stuff, criticism. When I do a whole segment on criticism, I try, depending on how vulgar or bad it is, but I try to look at some things as a gift. A criticism can be a gift. There could be some truth to it that I'm unaware how I'm perceived or how I come across. And someone might go, you do this a lot. And that was annoying. Well, initially I'm going to go, I thought I was really good. That's what we want to think of ourselves. But I should stop before I answer or block them or anything. Let me think about that.
Do you know how many times I wanted to respond to someone's message with a picture of my middle finger, which was the original emoji. Before there were emojis online, the middle finger was the original emoji. That was universal. Everyone knew what it meant, and it's like, you want to send that, but I know that it will come back to haunt me later. And some people don't have that switch that says, this is going to come back and haunt you. And then some people will write me something that is so vile that I will, I'll retweet it because I know that it becomes dog pile on the idiot.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that there is a billboard somewhere out in space that says, do not visit this big blue planet because it's run by a bunch of people here that should not be, we shouldn't interact with.
Yeah.
I almost said something else, but I'm going to take it back. I pulled it back.
Thank you. And going back to the middle finger, wanting to give it, I'm human. I have stuff up here that comes here, and I want to say to people, I'm human. I want to cuss. I want to, the middle finger or whatever it is. However, like you said, we pull back, but why? Why do I choose to do that and other people don't? Again, there's a list of reasons, a different, I don't want to add to what's already out there. I know that sounds so foofy, I don't want to be part of the problem, be part of the solution, but there is something to that. And then you said something earlier about what you want to say and how it comes out. I have this, and I said it on one of the television appearances, and it sounds very elementary school. You can say what you mean without being mean. That's
Well,
called.
some people don't get that. Some people do not get that. I mean, say that again.
You can say what you mean without being mean. And it sounds like third grade stuff, but so I express myself a lot of times, but I say it in a neutral way to give my point, not to impose, not to change your mind, not to put you in your place, but this is how I want to respond to that. And it's
Well, I always say, people go, well, if aliens showed up, they'd eat our brains. No, they wouldn't. They'd be
some of
like
it.
biting into one of those chocolate bunnies where there's nothing on the inside.
Oh, God, that's awful, but possibly.
All right. So, Rosalinda Randall, I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us. I mean, you have a very busy schedule. You've been traveling all around. You've been on TV. You have been, out there spreading the word of being how to be civil. And, tell us your books one more time. And if you want to, I'll make you full screen. You can show them your books. They're right behind you.
Yes.
It's, go ahead. Any final words?
Just keep your distance and don't burp in the boardroom. Final word is, first of all, thank you so much. And thank you for your staff for putting all this together. And it's always a pleasure. We've known each other, I think, going on 5 or 6 years now.
I've endorsed your book, actually, one of them.
Yes, you did. You were so kind. It was like a thrill, like, yes, really? So thank you so much. The last final thing I want to say is, if we can, try and overlook a lot of the things that people do or say to us. It's worth it. Work on your own house before we start throwing stones at somebody else's house. And the other thing is, just a little bit more tact when we do respond to someone else, because we're putting ourselves out there. That's like that footprint that we don't want to leave on Earth. Well, if you're into that mentality, then think of the footprint your mouth and your little fingers are leaving on the planet.
So in other words, don't write a check that your ass can't cash.
That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
Okay, I knew it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you. I know you have things to do, but we'll let people know that they can find us on. Oops, I don't mean to show you anymore. I mean to show me. So they can find you on. They can find the segment. It'll be reposted on Spotify, Anchor FM, which is giving us a chance for this platform so we can do it. Please come on. We can use the donations to keep this going. We're doing this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Reasons why aliens will not invade Earth. And podcasting next week, it'll be Peter Jam. And you want to Google him. He's a pretty smart gentleman who's been trying to spread peace around the world through his music. And he made him perform for us while we're doing this segment next week. So thank you again for showing up. I appreciate it. And you can always find this on YouTube, on Twix. It'll be there for at least another 15 days. Facebook is there, but subscribe to the podcast. It'll be there. And we thank you all for joining us, and good night.